Facilities that make this program possible are provided by the City of Highland Park. Programs are produced independently by members of the community. The City of Highland Park is not affiliated with the following program or the producers of public access programming and is not responsible for the content. The following program does not reflect the opinions of the City of Highland Park.
Welcome to Chill Out. I'm Pam Chill, one of the Highland Park senior producers, and today's program is about the importance of the core. And I'm so delighted to have as my guest today, Kizzie Mailander. I'm going to give a brief bio on you. Welcome, Kizzie. Thank you so much for appearing on our program today. And you are a certified personal trainer, fitness consultant, adjunct faculty department of physical education for Depaul University. Kizzie Mailander is certified through AFFA with a Bachelor of Science in Physical Education from the University of Delaware and an MED in Health and Physical Education from Westchester University. For 17 years, she taught in the wellness programs at various colleges, served as women's volleyball coach and a strength coach, and as a personal trainer for 17 years, she specializes in the older adult population, post-rehabilitation, special populations, deconditioned individuals, and the highly conditioned athlete. Traditional strength training techniques, isolation of individual muscles to maximize overload, functional training techniques, coordination, balance, and control, and of course core stabilization, the ability to control our bodies through different planes and movements, all are incorporated into her training. Better health, more exercise, and increased fitness can be the key to a more confident, fitter, and less stressed you, not to mention opening up new possibilities for your lifestyle. And you put in your bio, exercise is important to keep both your mind and body in shape.
Yes, it is.
All righty. Well, we're going to start on what is core training? What is the importance of the core?
Core training is the stabilization of the lumbar and the pelvic area. And as I think everybody can attest to, at some point, probably in your life, you've strained your back, or hopefully you didn't do more than a strain. The lower back issue happens because of a couple different reasons. One could be the hamstrings, which is the back of the leg, become very tight. And if you've sat for long periods of time and you go to stand up, you'll notice you get a shooting little pain in that lower part of your back, that lumbar, primarily 5 and 6 disc area. And that's because the hamstring shortens up. And then when you stand up, it tends to try to lengthen back out. So that could be one possibility of back issues. The other is the abdominal area, which is the core, is not strong at all. Also, people with posture issues, primarily you'll see the shoulders roll forward, you'll see the back kind of collapse in, and when you're sitting at desk all day and things like that, you tend to forget about your posture. So between the core, the hamstring, and correct posture alignment, it should help you with that area. However, when people work out, they don't really know what the parts of the core are, and the weakest part of that is the lower back. So when you train the core, you train the lower back first, then you train the oblique area, which is that rib cage area along the side. Then you go to the lower part of the abdominal, which is way down low, and then the upper part of the abdominal, which is primarily people do all the time, which is the exercise called the crunch. So you want to train those components all the time.
Mm-hmm. How does one start doing this? I mean, where do you begin? Let's say in my case, I exercised when I was in my 20s, and then, less and less and less, and now I want to get back to it. So how does one get back into it, or how does one begin?
Well, first of all, you want to have an evaluation done. You want to have some kind of assessment done to make sure that you don't have any health issues that are going to prevent you from doing different things, whether it's aerobic work, anaerobic work, strength training work. Once you get that evaluation done, personal trainers can give you what's called an assessment test, where they can look at your flexibility in the lower back and the hamstring, your strength in the upper part, the lower part, and your cardiovascular endurance. And then once you find out where you are at, and there are norms for each of those areas of the testing that's done, then you can build a program that works for you. But you want to make sure you include all of those. They're called health components of fitness. So there should be a cardiovascular phase, there should be a strength training phase, there should be a flexibility phase, and of course how you eat makes a big difference as to how you train.
Oh, how does that work? How does that correlation?
Because your exercising functions off different types of food. So if you're training cardiovascular, you're in an aerobics class, or you're on an elliptical, or you're on a treadmill, you do want to take in some carbohydrates. You want more simple carbohydrates because that promotes the energy for that type of exercise. When you're strength training, you also want to make sure you have high enough levels of protein. Women tend to undereat protein, or they have in the past. The protein you need for the strength training part of it. You can't just train and eat very, what I would say, poorly. You want to eat clean. All right, you want to hit all the food groups, and they're all important to your training. If you try to train intense and you haven't taken in enough carbohydrates, you're just not going to have a very good workout. The higher the intensity, the more important your eating is.
So, as I say, food for thought. Now, what use is core stability?
Core stability helps to, as you age, if you've ever noticed somebody having a hard time getting in and out of a car, they're starting to lose primarily that core in the oblique area, because a lot of getting up and down is a lot of turning motion and rotation motion, side bend and rotation. So there's a lot of things that if you train the core as you age, you're not going to lose that range of motion. Also, flexibility is real important. You've got to do stretching of those areas. Myself, when I get up in the morning, I'm very stiff. And so what I do is about a 10-minute stretch while I'm laying in bed before I even get up. I'm more stiff in my lower back and my quadriceps. So I just do a series of exercises while I'm laying in bed, and then that way when I get up, I'm not as stiff. So it's a combination, I would say, of a lot of core training and a lot of flexibility. And people don't always, they shortchange flexibility. They don't take the time to do it. And there's actually two types of flexibility now that people focus on. One is called dynamic stretching, and the other is called static stretching. Dynamic stretching is done in the beginning of your workout, and static stretching is done at the end of the workout. It's changed. Actually, a lot of the techniques have changed since I started even working out myself. And it's important not just to the average person to work all of these areas of the health, they're called health components of fitness, the cardio, the flexibility, the strength, and your nutrition. It's important to the normal person, and it's definitely still important to the athlete, the gifted athlete. They still have to work in those areas so their abilities even get better at the next level of competition that they're in. So it's really important for everybody.
Now, what muscles provide the core stability?
You've got the lower back area, which again is primarily in the 5-6 area of the lumbar disc. Then you've got the oblique, which is all along the rib cage. There's an internal and external oblique area. That allows you to do turning and side bend motions. And then you have the lower abdominal, and when you see people doing exercises like leg lifts, that's primarily working the lower ab. The upper and lower ab is one long piece of the abdominal, but certain exercises you feel in the lower, and then of course the fourth part of the core is the upper ab, and that's kind of in that triangle area, and that's worked by doing what's called a crunch. The lower back exercise encases really 4 different exercises. There's really only 4 in that. There's an exercise called a bridge, there's an exercise called a dolphin, And there's an exercise, some books will call it Superman. I call it an opposite arm leg extension. And then the third one would be a back extension. There's really only 4. If the person is very good at it, you can modify it up a little bit harder to make it harder, like add some balance with it. But the oblique is worked by side bends or rotation motions. The lower abs work by the leg lifts. And again, the upper ab is the crunch. But those, there are many more of those, variations of those. And it's very important to modify the exercises for the individual. 1, because you want to make them successful. And 2, they might not be at that level yet. So you can change it a little bit around so they're successful in it. You should work those every day. It would only take you about 6 to 8 minutes to do a core workout.
Really? And would it just that amount of time would actually make a difference
Sure.
in your lifestyle?
If you're training it for strength, there's a different technique for muscular strength that there is endurance. But if you're training for strength to make that lower back stronger, there's a certain way to do the technique, and you only need to do 1 set of 10 repetitions. People think they have to do a lot of sets, and that's not necessarily true. But you need to know that the strength technique is different than the endurance technique. And most people will say to me, I'm training strength, but they're really not, because they're making the movements very fast. You want to use your momentum on the part where you lift the weight up, and then you want to hold the contraction. When you get the exercise to where it's supposed to be, they used to say pause. Pause is pretty much out. You want to hold it for like a 1001, 1002 count, and then control the down motion of the exercise, 1 for safety. That's a strength technique, where an endurance technique is you go very quickly. So if your goal is to get stronger in that lower back, then you definitely want to use a strength technique.
Is it more advantageous to do exercises on your own or to do them in a supervised facility, a gym with equipment? I mean, can you get the same type of result?
Sure you can. If you learn how to do it properly, you can do it on your own. I mean, you don't always have to be in a gym to create a workout.
So you don't have to have a machine doing most of the work for you. Then
a lot of the cores can be developed simply with a mat on a floor. But if sometimes you want to take it to a next level or get a little bit more creative with it, then there are things you can do off a machine. But people always, think the fact they have to be in a gym. I teach a fitness and conditioning class to students at Depaul, and during the nice weather, I also take them outside and show them how they can create other workouts by using stairs, right? There's stairs out on campus. There's benches out on campus. I can do reverse dips. I can do toe taps on steps. There's a lot of ways to create whatever you run into when you're outside.
It reminds me of the Rocky film.
It is. It is. It's very much like that. So it's pretty much.
Because his workout incorporated, the entire
trees.
city. Yes.
We've looked at trees where we've done things with trees. So you don't always have to have a gym. But people sometimes think that. You can do a lot of things on benches. You have your bicycle. I bike to work a lot, and there's a lot of times where I can create a cardio workout from block to block in the neighborhood. So if you can be creative and you can learn the technique, you can create a lot on your own.
Now, what muscles do you provide? Just like a demonstration of what muscles provide the core stability that we're actually working on. So, right over here, right?
Right.
Okay.
So the lower back would be this position right here.
Okay.
L4-5.
Okay. Do we
That's
have
that sweet
okay.
spot. That's
Yes.
that sweet spot that hurts when you've pulled your back. And then your internal, external obliques would be from the lower part of the rib cage up to where that last rib hits. And then your lower ab would be primarily, I always say when women have had children, that's the part of the ab that gets destroyed.
Really?
It's the lower part of the ab because it's the hardest part for them to bring the strength back into because it's been stretched out when they give birth.
You see kind of like a sagging, over your pants.
Because they'll always say, the women will say to me, how do I get rid of this? Well, the skin has been stretched out due to giving birth. So they can get stronger in it, but again, your skin has been stretched out and you lose elasticity in your skin as you age anyway. So that's one that's hard to bring back for women that has have had birth, but they can bring it back. Will they lose that little inch or two? I don't know, because that skin's been totally stretched out.
Okay.
The upper ab is our strongest. And again, that's that little V-like shape at the top, right under the top of that V. So that's our strongest. And probably because for years, that's the only thing people did, was crunches. They knew nothing about working the lower, nothing about working the oblique, and definitely didn't work the lower back muscles. And that's why we had so many issues for years with people with lower back problems. That and poor posture and lifting things improperly. Like if you watch someone lift a garage door, they're going to bend over from the knees, from the waist to lift.
Careful with the mic, yeah. Okay,
right?
yes.
Versus lifting from the knees instead of the waist.
Yes.
So again,
yes.
when you have to be careful when you're picking things up, because it's very easy to throw your back out.
Very easily.
So you definitely want to keep it strong.
Okay. Well, my director just told me that we have about 13 minutes, so we're going to do. Can you provide us with a demonstration,
Sure,
Kizzie?
sure.
Because we want to show these exercises of you actually doing it so our viewers can see it. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to take your mic off. There we go. Pardon me. Okay. And we're going to see if our overhead works. We're going to be careful of the wire. And Kizzie's going to work on some exercises, and we're going to. Now, what are you going to start with now, first of all?
Okay, so when you work the core, you want to start with the weakest muscle group, which is the lower back. So you train from the weakest of the core to the strongest. I'm going to show you a lower back exercise called a bridge. All right, there's a couple of ways you can do it. I'm going to show the basic way. And then if I was training you and you said that wasn't much of a challenge, then I would take it up a little notch. Okay. So the bridge, you have the person lay down, and they put their hands flat on the floor. Feet are spread a few inches, okay, maybe 4 to 6 inches apart. Heels are about 12 to 15 inches from the buttocks. I have them focus on the ceiling. They're going to push the pelvis up toward the ceiling to create a straight line from the knee to the shoulder. And at that point, they're going to engage their glute by squeezing their buttocks as tight as they can. They're going to hold it for a slow 1001, 1002 count, and then return control to the floor. Their exhale pattern is, I'm about to lift the weight, which is my body weight. So I'm going to do that quickly and exhale out. And notice it's a straight line. I'm not going up higher. That's hyperextending your back, which you don't want to do. So you tell them straight line from knee to shoulder, do the hold, and then come down nice and controlled. You always want to have control of the weight. That's a safety factor. Exhale up, hold it, and control on the down. It's called a bridge. I would have them do 10 repetitions. Now, if you wanted to put a little bit more stabilization for the pelvis in there, I'm sure you've seen these balls. They're called physio balls, and you have them put their legs up on it, and they have to balance. So you do the same exercise, so that would be a notch up. This can be done while you're laying in bed, so you could stretch out your back in the morning by doing this bridge. The next exercise I would go to is called, it's for the obliques, and I call this one, I sort of made this one up, I call it a sliding shoulder. So if you're ever in a gym, you might see people standing up with a weight and they're side bending. I never get anything off of that, so I created this one. As long as a person doesn't have a shoulder issue, this works pretty well. So I take one arm, I'm in the same position as the bridge, and I cradle my head. And I'm going to lift my shoulders slightly. Now this engages a little of the upper ab too, because I'm holding myself up. I'm going to take the other arm, bring it up off the floor about 3 to 6 inches. Now I'm going to slide my shoulders, that's why I call it a sliding shoulder, and reach my hand toward my foot, as far down as I can get. This side of the oblique is lengthening, and this side is contracting. And I'm going to hold it, and then I'm going to slide back to the middle, trying to keep my head elevated by supporting it with my arm. Exhale and slide. That's the quick part. And then control the back. You should feel those obliques on both sides. So again, your oblique motion, the key is side bends or rotations. If I were going to do a rotation exercise, so I would do 10 on this side and then switch. If I wanted to do a rotation exercise instead of a side bend, I might do something simply like this. Put a hand on the hip, come up, and touch the outside. That's more of a rotation. You don't have to do them both. You could do a side bend one day, and you could do a rotation the next day. Okay? That would be a simple, two different oblique exercises you could do. I do one set of 10. So it's important to control them. Then you go to the lower ab. That's that part that's down here, the hard part. When people's backs hurt, they will always say, I don't do leg raises because their lower back's weak. And you'll see them take their legs from the floor and pull up, and it hurts their back. So when I have clients, I teach them to first, if they have a lower back issue, I won't do a straight leg raise with them. I will have them start with a bent knee raise. And I'll have them press their pelvis to the floor to get rid of the space, so there's no space. And then they have to pull the knees up quickly, all the way in, hold it. And then come down nice and slow, trying to touch the heels and not allow space under here, which is hard if they're not used to it. Exhale in and out slow. That's if they have a back issue. If they don't have a back issue, we start the exercise by pulling the knees in, extending the legs, and there's a slight flexion in the knee. We're not locking out. We're keeping it slightly bent. And I have them lower the legs to an area that's comfortable for them. If they say, this is comfortable for me, it's not bothering anything, that's all I can do, then they pull back up to 90 degrees. Eventually, I want to work them down as close to the floor as they can get. But again, if they have a lower back issue, they need to stay with the bent one. And again, it would be one set of 10 reps. So you lower slowly to where it works for you, and then you exhale and push up. And again, the whole time, the back is flat into the pad. There's no space there. So this would be, I call it a semi-straight leg bent raise. That's the person that doesn't have a problem. And then the person that does, you do bent knee raises. And again, if they're not used to getting that space out of there, you may have to back up further and have them do what's called a pelvic tilt. And that's just teaching them to push and get rid of the space. And push and get rid of the space. Then your last exercise would be your crunch, okay? I don't like to even call it a crunch. I would call it a shoulder lift. Again, you're in that same position for the bridge. Hands are at your ears. I tell them to focus on the ceiling, press that ab into the floor, and lift the shoulders slightly, focusing on the ceiling. It's not a neck pull. You don't want them pulling on their neck. You want them to lift the shoulder and down slow. This is the up motion. This is quick, and exhale. And down slow. When people said they've had neck issues, I've taken a big towel and I'm putting their head on the end of the towel, have them grip it tight, and do the same thing. Now the neck is supported, right? It doesn't hurt their neck at all because it's supported. Exhale up and down slow. This is why they only have to do 10 of these, because if you do these correctly, exhale, by 8, 9, and 10, you're going to feel that burn. It's going to burn. So this would be a modification if someone has a neck issue that when they do this, it still bothers their neck. I should have marketed that. So that would be 4 core exercises you could do.
Very, very good. So do you want to join us back up here? I mean, those were really very, very good exercises. And so if, just say the average person, if they start doing that, I'm going to put your mic on, and I think we're going to, or maybe just put it right on over here. So if you do that, how soon will you see a change? How soon will you see a progression of going to the next level?
If you're religious about that, after a while, those 10 won't be as tough. And then you could take it up a step. Like the bridge, you could put your legs up on the ball, or you could do a single leg bridge where one leg is up and one leg's on the floor, and you push up with one leg. So as you become stronger, then you want to challenge yourself and go to the next level. But like I said, some of the exercises, if you know that the key to the bridge is to squeeze the buttocks, that's what makes your back stronger, and the key to the rotation of the obliques is either a side bend or rotation, you can almost think about those and come up with some of your own. If you're feeling in that area, then you made an exercise up that kind of works that area. It's not all in a book.
Okay, and there's really no way, if you do it wrong, would you be injuring yourself in any way?
No, if you're controlling it,
yes.
No, if you're controlling it. If you were doing things very fast, and like if you're with weights and you're doing things very fast with heavy weights, you can injure yourself. But it's important to think about your posture. It's important not to sit for long periods of time. But if you can, do these exercises, it will definitely help you. They're just more important even than your upper and lower body exercises. Your power generates from the midsection of your body. So when I have a client, I have them warm up first, do dynamic stretching, which is stretching that's like movement stretching. And then we go right to the core. We do the core before we even lift with upper or lower limbs. Your power generates there. So the stronger you are here, the stronger you'll be when you do your lift with your legs and your upper body. So you don't want to save your core to the end of your workout. You want to do it in the beginning.
Because you always have more energy in the beginning of your
right.
workout.
But you want power to come from here, because when you're lifting a heavier weight, you're exhaling out. So your breathing is also working your core.
Now, how important is breathing?
Breathing is very important. If you don't exhale out on the up part of lifting the weight and you hold your breath, you're driving your blood pressure up. So, you could essentially pass out if you're not breathing correctly. When the weights are light, it may not make as much difference, but when the weights get heavier or you get to where you're fatiguing with the weights, then breathing is very important.
Okay, tell me about, there are a lot of other things. I know a lot of people do squats, and tell me the disadvantages, advantages, because I know you're working on a special project. So I wanted you to spend a moment just talking about that project.
Sure. There are isolation leg exercises, and there are what I would call whole leg exercises. So if you're trying to get what I call more for your money, you want to do the large leg exercises, because when you do a lunge, a leg press, or a squat, you're working your entire leg instead of working it in pieces, and those are oscillation exercises. So I started researching. Some of the exercises my generation did were not correct. And for years, people started doing exercises where their hands were behind them. And when they did it, they didn't realize they were overloading the front of the shoulder and actually putting pressure on the C5, C6 of the upper vertebra. And so for most of the exercises, you could tell them to correct it. But for the exercise called the squat, in which you place a barbell behind you, when you grab the bar, your hands are back here. Again, in that position that overloads here and puts pressure on the spine. So what I did is for 3 years, have been working on this product, and it's called Squat Meat. And what it will do is when you latch it down to the bar, it will place your hands 5 inches in front of you. So you have to imagine the bar is in here. So instead of my hands being back here, which overloads this and puts pressure on the spine, the hands will be out here. Some people have no issue. It's just not comfortable either. But over a period of time, you will have an issue with either the tendons, the bursa, or the capsule in the shoulder, and it throws your spine out of alignment by tilting your head forward. So this will alleviate that. So it's a product I've been working on.
That's wonderful. Most
great
people
product.
can do it. Yes. Absolutely wonderful. I wanted to take this opportunity to thank you so much, Kizzie Mailander, for coming on our program, and lots of good tidbits, and keep exercising.
Definitely.
And definitely do that toning, do those stretches, and do those exercises. I enjoyed so much, and we'll just keep working on it. And I hope our viewers will, obviously, if they can contact you, we had to contact